Welcome back, everyone. I'm Jordan Giesige, and this is The Limiting Factor. EOS Energy has developed and is in the process of scaling a zinc-bromine battery that they claim can undercut the cost of lithium-ion batteries for grid storage. From a technology perspective, at scale, that claim holds up to scrutiny, but it's not the whole story. As with every battery chemistry I've covered, the marketing material leaves out important context. For example, even though EOS batteries are low cost, they're targeting long-duration storage applications that generate less revenue than the short-duration applications that lithium-ion batteries target. To use a logistics analogy, the EOS battery is more like a long-haul truck, whereas lithium-ion batteries are more like a box truck for last-mile deliveries. Each leg of the logistics network has different economics, and so requires a different transport solution. So just comparing the cost of the transport doesn't tell the whole story. That means in order to really understand EOS and their zinc-bromine battery, we need to understand the basics of the chemistry and how that affects its scalability and economics. Before we begin, a special thanks to my Patreon supporters, YouTube members, and Twitter subscribers, as well as Rebellionaire.com. They specialize in helping investors manage concentrated positions. Rebellionaire can help with covered calls, risk management, and creating a money master plan from your financial first principles. Let's start with the technical details of the EOS Zinc-Bromine Battery. On screen is a visual reference for the current version of their battery module, which is called the Z3. Even at first glance, given the amount of plastic used, it looks like it would have a low production cost, and that initial impression is correct. What other materials are used? The 5 basic raw materials used are zinc bromide and water for the electrolyte, titanium for the anode current collector, and graphite felt for the cathode current collector. All of those are common industrial materials that are found in large volumes in the Earth's crust and can be produced at relatively low cost. The titanium and graphite felt appear to be the most expensive components, but from what I could dig up, they're roughly comparable in price to some of the major components in a lithium-ion battery. Additionally, they make up a small fraction of the Z3 battery modules on a weight basis. The titanium, for example, is no longer used on most of the anodes and has been replaced with conductive plastic. Beyond the low materials costs, the Z3 battery module doesn't appear to require tight manufacturing tolerances because all of the components are millimeters to centimeters thick. In comparison, lithium-ion battery components are in the micron range, from the thickness of a human hair down to the size of a red blood cell. Furthermore, the EOS Z3 is large. It has a mass of about 20 kilograms and a volume of 22 liters. That's as opposed to lithium-ion battery cells for grid storage, which have a mass of around 5 kilograms and a volume of around 2.6 liters. So the EOS battery is about 4 times the weight and 8 times the volume. That larger size reduces costs in the same way that buying in bulk packaging does. Fewer manufacturing operations and less packaging material. As for how the chemistry of the Z3 works, as I said earlier, the electrolyte contains zinc bromide and water. During charging, zinc electroplates to the titanium anode current collector, and bromine electroplates to the carbon felt cathode current collector. When it discharges, the zinc and bromine return to the electrolyte solution as zinc bromide. With that basic overview out of the way, let's look at the pros and cons of the Z3 battery. Starting with the pros, first, the battery is both non-flammable and low toxicity. That means no fire suppression system is necessary, the batteries are more likely to be accepted in urban areas, and they should be easier to recycle. Second, the chemistry is very stable, and even without a thermal management system, has a temperature range of -20 to 50 degrees Celsius. Furthermore, EOS batteries can be shipped at 0 volts, making for safer, easier, and therefore lower cost shipping. Third, as we've seen, the Z3 batteries are simple. They're large, don't require tight tolerances, and don't require a fire suppression system or thermal management system. That means on top of the low material costs, they're cheap to manufacture, maintain, and operate. Fourth, zinc bromide batteries are very durable, offering at minimum about 6,000 charge-discharge cycles at 100% of their capacity and lasting for 20 years with minimal degradation. Fifth, over 90% of the EOS supply chain is within the US, and they aim to eventually get that to 100%. That provides EOS with supply chain stability and also gives them access to production tax credits of up to $45 per kilowatt hour and possibly up to $52 per kilowatt hour if the 10% active material tax credits are included. With the pros out of the way, let's move on to the cons. First, the EOS Z3 battery is limited to a maximum discharge speed of about 3 hours. More on that in a moment. Second, the round-trip efficiency of the Z3 battery is 75 to 92%. That is, depending on how deeply and how quickly the battery is charged and discharged, between 8 to 25% of the electrical energy is lost as heat energy. The efficiency is closer to 75% if the battery is fully discharged in 4 hours, and the efficiency is closer to 92% if the battery is partially discharged over the course of 16 hours. Third, some people might point to the low energy density of the Z3 battery as a drawback because they're less than half the energy density of lithium-ion batteries. However, at the site level, they should take up about the same space as lithium-ion battery packs because they're non-flammable and so can be grouped closer together. Fourth, EOS still needs to scale. Their Z3 line currently has a production capacity of about 1.25 gigawatt hours, and they intend on having 8 gigawatt hours in place by 2027. If they continue scaling that aggressively, it may mean they can hit 40 gigawatt hours of production by 2030. Production scale is a risk for 3 reasons. First, scale is necessary for EOS to reach their cost targets, become profitable, and survive, and they'll be competing with companies that are already at scale and profitable. Second, with such a new battery chemistry, their scaling efforts could face more challenges than more established battery chemistries. Third, the time it takes EOS to scale will give lithium-ion batteries time to evolve and adapt for the grid applications that EOS is targeting. That means the cost estimates EOS provided for the Z3 and lithium-ion batteries are both moving targets. More on that in a moment. The fifth drawback of the Z3 battery has to do with risk. Commercial customers don't like to buy relatively new products from relatively young companies due to concerns about unexpected issues and ongoing support if the company goes belly up. EOS is mitigating some of those concerns by using third-party inverters and software from companies like FlexGen, but that doesn't fully mitigate the risks. With the pros and cons of the EOS Z3 battery out of the way, let's take a look at the commercial potential for the technology, starting with duration. EOS is targeting the 3 to 12 hour duration market. What does that mean? I've done a video on the topic, which I'll link above, but let's do a quick refresher. There's actually several different ways to define duration. The simplest definition of duration is the maximum speed that a grid storage technology can be discharged, which is calculated by dividing energy capacity by power capacity. For example, Tesla offers 2 duration options for their megapacks, 2 and 4 hour. Each have about 4 megawatt hours of energy capacity, but the 2-hour version has roughly 2 megawatts of inverter power, and the 4-hour version has 1 megawatt of inverter power. And because the duration is based on the maximum discharge rate, there's nothing stopping a customer from discharging a megapack more slowly to provide 12 hours of duration. It just likely wouldn't be cost competitive. What do I mean by that? The second way to define duration is to look at the economics of an energy storage technology to determine where it's the most cost competitive. There are 2 major cost factors associated with grid storage. The first is the cost of energy storage in terms of watts of power capacity, and the second is the cost of energy storage in terms of watt-hours of capacity. For example, for pumped hydro, the energy storage is cheap, because it's simply a matter of digging a hole and filling it with water to store the potential energy of the water, and the water is effectively free. That's as opposed to batteries, where the energy-storing materials are highly refined and comparatively expensive, like graphite, nickel, and iron. On the flip side, for pumped hydro, power capacity is expensive because it requires massive generator turbines, whereas for lithium-ion batteries, power capacity is comparatively cheap because they use inverters to generate power. At the time the graphs on screen were made, after all the calculations were run for both energy and power capacity for each technology across a range of durations, pumped hydro was the most economic at durations of greater than 10 hours, and for lithium-ion it was most economic from about 10 minutes to about 2 hours. But as each month goes by, the economics are changing because, for example, lithium-ion batteries are scaling much more rapidly than pumped hydro, which makes them cheaper and allows them to take more market share from pumped hydro. The next major point to cover about the commercial potential of the Z3 battery is to tease out the difference between features that just become part of the cost calculation and features that differentiate the product. What do I mean by that? Although from a technical perspective, it's exciting that the EOS Z3 battery requires very little power consumption for heating and cooling, that and many of the other cost benefits just get rolled up into the total cost calculation, and some things cancel each other out. For example, lithium-ion batteries have over a 13% round-trip efficiency advantage over zinc-bromine batteries at a 4-hour duration. So even though lithium-ion batteries do require 3.5% more auxiliary power for thermal management, they make up for it and more through greater efficiency. On that note, although EOS batteries can operate in a wider temperature range than lithium-ion batteries at a chemistry level, -20 to 50 degrees Celsius versus 15 to 25 degrees Celsius, the thermal management system that comes with grid-scale lithium-ion batteries means that they can operate at an even broader temperature range than the Z3, from -30 degrees Celsius to 50 degrees Celsius. So the end product of each chemistry operates within a similar temperature range. I'm guessing the Megapack will do better in very cold environments due to its lower minimum temperature, and that the plastic EOS batteries will do better in a sea spray environment, but each are niche use cases. Either way, after all the cost features of EOS batteries are accounted for, in my view, the feature that truly differentiates the Z3 battery is that it's non-flammable thanks to its water-based electrolyte. If a customer wanted to deploy a grid-scale battery pack in a dense urban area, which will be common, that would make EOS batteries a standout choice. But for most grid storage applications, that's not going to be the most important selling point, because lithium-ion batteries are safe enough for most sites. If they weren't, they wouldn't be getting deployed globally at massive scale. The most important selling point is the cost of power and energy, and how those align with the market demand for power and energy. With that context in place, we can take a closer look at the point I made in the introduction, which is that the cost figures that EOS quoted aren't an apples-to-apples comparison. EOS claims that their batteries cost about 30% less than lithium-ion batteries, $130 to $140 per kilowatt-hour versus $135 to $170 per kilowatt-hour for lithium-ion batteries. Given that's a levelized cost of storage figure, meaning it takes into account many variables over the life of the grid storage product, I'm assuming that EOS has included all the cost benefits of the Z3 battery in their calculation, from manufacturing all the way to end-of-life decommissioning. If that's the case, what's missing? Why don't I think their estimate of a 30% reduction in cost per kilowatt-hour is an apples-to-apples comparison? First, it leaves out the other half of the grid storage equation, cost per power capacity, which at this scale would be the cost in dollars per kilowatt. 12 years ago, EOS had a power cost target of $1,000 per kilowatt, and an energy cost target of $160 per kilowatt hour. If their current cost target for energy is $130 to $140 per kilowatt hour, and we assume a similar cost ratio for power to energy as 12 years ago, that would mean their current cost target for power could be around $800 per kilowatt. As a comparable, even with a bulk discount, for one megapack including annual maintenance, Tesla's 2-hour duration megapack is currently priced at about $600 per kilowatt. The implication is that lithium-ion batteries are just cheaper when it comes to the cost of power capacity. That means they're more well-suited to shorter duration applications that require high power output. That's why Eos is trying to compete in longer duration, 3 to 12-hour applications. And that's why Tesla doesn't design their megapacks for 6 to 12-hour applications. Tesla has a power cost advantage, and when Eos hits scale, they could potentially have an energy cost advantage. I say potentially because the second issue with the levelized cost figures that Eos provided is that they appear to be for the current cost of lithium-ion batteries and the future expected cost of the Eos Z3 battery with scaling. The graph on screen illustrates that. If the graph is accurate, by doing some pixel counting, we can get a sense of the cost impact of scaling. If the production tax credits are worth about $50 per kilowatt hour, and it's about 48 pixels between the dashed line for the Z3 with production tax credits and the light green line without production tax credits, that means each pixel is worth about $1 per kilowatt hour. At scale, the cost of the Z3 is 140 pixels on the y-axis, so $140 per kilowatt hour, which aligns with their levelized cost estimate of $130 to $140 per kilowatt hour. Typically, for the energy storage industry, 5 to 10 gigawatt hours is what would be considered scale, and Eos has 8 gigawatt hours of capacity planned by 2027. That is, Eos is probably looking at 2027 before they hit their $130 to $140 per kilowatt hour cost target. But if they continue scaling, they'll continue reducing costs from there. If that's the case, thanks to a lower cost per kilowatt hour basis, does that mean Eos will eventually dominate long-duration storage? It depends on how well they execute, the time frame you're looking at, and which markets. If Eos reaches 8 gigawatt hours of production in 2027, they could take about 5 to 10% of the battery energy storage market in the US. That's because in 2027, Tesla will likely take 80 to 90% of the US battery energy storage market from at least 80 gigawatt hours of grid storage production. Beyond 2027, it becomes much more difficult to forecast the U.S. grid storage market. Let's take a look at the variables. First, we don't know what's going to happen with the tariffs on batteries from China and other countries, and the $45 per kilowatt hour production tax credit for U.S.-produced cells and packs. If both remain and Eos executes well, then it could give Eos a cost advantage over imported lithium-ion battery packs, allowing them to outperform the rest of the competition in the U.S. market, like Tesla, which at the moment use imported LFP battery packs. Second, with that said, regardless of what happens with tariffs and tax credits, Tesla's U.S. battery supply chain for grid storage batteries isn't standing still. They've already started commissioning LFP battery cell production equipment in Nevada, and it's rumored to be around 10 gigawatt hours. If that's the case, they may be able to scale their U.S. domestic LFP battery production at roughly the same pace that Eos is, while still dipping into the vast import market for LFP battery cells. Third, Tesla's still innovating on the Megapack. A year ago, Tesla said that Megapack 3, which should come out next year, will start absorbing more of the substation. That'll decrease installation costs, sidestep transformer bottlenecks, and increase their speed of deployment. If Eos has plans for something similar, I'm not aware of it. Fourth, so far, lithium-ion battery packs have been designed for shorter durations below 4 hours, because that's where most of the profits currently are. As the short-duration market becomes more saturated and less profitable, lithium-ion grid storage battery packs can be redesigned from the cell up to the inverter to deliver large amounts of energy rather than large amounts of power. That could help close the 30% cost advantage gap in energy capacity that EOS battery packs have over lithium-ion, allowing them to compete more effectively at longer durations. Fifth, long-duration storage is expected to see a huge increase in demand in the next 5 to 10 years as we see the proportion of renewables on the grid increase. That's because more intermittent power generation from renewables means more excess electricity during generation events and larger and longer gaps to be filled when those resources aren't generating electricity. It may also mean that the battery packs will need to cycle more than once per day, meaning longer cycle lives will be required. On that note, some people might point out that EOS batteries are capable of cycling multiple times per day with minimal degradation, but LFP battery packs aren't. While it's true that many LFP battery packs are warranted to provide only one full charge-discharge cycle of energy per day, which is a topic all its own, it's not all of them, and it's wrong to assume that those warranties won't improve over time. For example, the CATL Tenor battery pack will be capable of 15,000 cycles, which is enough for 2 cycles per day over 20 years, and there's no reason to expect they'll stop at 15,000 cycles. So with all that in mind, I don't think anyone has a clear view on what the US grid storage market looks like in 5 years for the EOS Z3 battery versus lithium-ion batteries. All we know is that the cost of both EOS and lithium-ion grid storage batteries will continue to fall and that the market is enormous. That means for now, I don't really see EOS and lithium-ion batteries in competition with each other. However much production each can build, they'll likely be able to sell to a willing buyer. In summary, as with any battery technology, the EOS Z3 Zinc-Bromine Battery comes with a basket of advantages and disadvantages, and the marketing material, of course, emphasizes the advantages. In my view, from a first principles perspective, the technology looks promising. The question is, can EOS scale the Z3 battery and drive it down the cost curve? Currently, their battery packs are priced about the same as a Tesla Megapack, in the mid-$200 per kilowatt-hour range. But at the current low production volumes of the Z3 battery, they likely cost much more than a Megapack to produce, and they're selling the product for grid storage applications that, as a whole, are less profitable. That is, they're in a precarious stage of their growth. With that said, so far, they seem to be scaling successfully, and if that continues, they could decrease their production costs and increase their grid storage deployments by about 40 times in the next 5 years. That is, from an investor perspective, EOS is high risk and potentially high reward. Beyond that, I can't comment on EOS from a financial perspective because financial analysis isn't in my wheelhouse. My goal today was to provide some context to the marketing material, and I hope you learned something from a technical or economic perspective along the way. If you enjoyed this video, please consider supporting the channel by using the links in the description. Also, consider following me on X. I often use X as a testbed for sharing ideas, and X subscribers, like my Patreon supporters, generally get access to my videos a week early. On that note, a special thanks to my YouTube members, X subscribers, and all the other patrons listed in the credits. I appreciate all of your support, and thanks for tuning in.